to do with you, the Nigerian people. That is what we look into here. Of course, today Tuesday. Today is 29th.
Yeah,
29th.
Yeah.
It's almost
getting
to the end of August.
2 more days.
The 8th month of the year. Of course, as we say, thank God for life.
No doubt.
You know, being alive is a gift.
Absolutely.
So we are grateful for that.
Yeah.
FEMI Ojo is my name, and I welcome you. Tunde, good morning.
Good morning to you, brother. And good morning to you, our very esteemed viewers, wherever you are viewing us from all around the world. We're super excited to be back again, and you know, this is how we do it, Mondays through Friday, just as Femi has said, and it's always a bumper package. Today, it wouldn't be an exception, because we have what it takes to make you sit glued to Western Spring Television at all times and do while you're doing the needful. We will always be here to back you up. We'd like to let you know that you can follow us on all our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and X. And definitely it is at Western Spring Television, And you can join our YouTube channel, subscribe, share, like. We will really.
And we are live on YouTube.
We're live on YouTube as well,
right
at Western Spring Television. Tunde IDOWU is my name, at Irresistible City on X. Let's do the X thing together. We'll kick things off very shortly, checking out some of the major headlines making the rounds from the papers, and before we go straight into the conversation. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history. James Ajibolaige was a lawyer who obtained his first degree in classics from Nigeria's premier University of Ibadan. Born September 13, 1930, the orator and the polyglot spoke impeccable English, French, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba languages. His fine diction placed him among classical orators and public speakers like Cicero, the Roman orator. This attribute earned him the prefix Cicero of Esauke. He authored Kaduna Boy, an autobiography, Detainee's Diary, Constitution, and the People, among 6 other books. Bolaige was a colorful politician, elected governor of Oyo State in 1979 and appointed a federal minister in 1999. He was a pioneer founder of Afenifere, the Yoruba socio-cultural and political group. He invested his political sagacity to propel the group to the height of political leadership and decision-making in the southwest of Nigeria. Bolaige was assassinated on the 23rd December 2001. His murderers are yet to be apprehended till today. Western Spring Television identifies Bolaige as a watershed character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in her various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Western Spring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history. Dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts, Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his persona and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works Obakoso, Obawaja and Moremi took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, the Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Western Spring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. BARR, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Fumilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Fumilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back. Let's get the program started at this moment in time. The newspaper review. Let's look at some of the major headlines making the round from the dailies for today. And looking at that, yesterday, the first FEC meeting took place, which is virtually common to all the dailies. And looking at what the 3-year economic revival plan as stated by Mr. President, and probably in the course of this week, we will analyze the plans. And in 3 years, where would we be among great nations of the world? Nigeria, that's where we belong. That's where we belong.
So many persons are already talking about having plans but then having measurable plans.
Measurable plans.
Time bound.
Yeah.
Within that 3 years, it has to be measurable. The first 6 months is for what?
Yes.
The next 1 year, the next 2 years, because so the Nigerians can interrogate this process. Where are we at this time? How good are we doing? Which ministry is really following? Which minister is really doing what he or she is supposed to do?
Yeah.
Because I think time has gone when Nigerians are,
sit back,
just docile, looking at let them do their thing. No, because it's obvious now that you can't just allow them do their thing. Everything they do has a way of affecting the rest of us.
Absolutely.
So you must just hold them accountable. And okay, so is this minister? Now the rest are the
president's table.
The president's table is the one leading the shot.
Absolutely.
Calling the shot.
Yeah.
And so many, the culpability will definitely be on his table. So the time is now for him to work.
Step up.
Yeah, step up. That's the right word. And let these ministers know there are no sacred cows.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how close or how powerful or how influential you are in your domain or your political, gain that you might want to bring to the table. You must do the work. And when they met yesterday, many persons were thinking, personally as well, is FEC meeting returning to Mondays now? Because we know FEC meeting always hold on Wednesdays. But then it doesn't matter the days of the week.
We don't care if you do it on Sunday.
The job.
Yeah, that's the thing. At the point at which he warned the ministers, this is not a playground. This is for work. And we must get Nigerians back on track. And looking at the fact that 3 years after the third year of most of this administration, they plan for campaigns.
Yeah, of course.
So it's always
it's obvious that the last year of any administration is always for politics.
Campaign period.
Really, it's a busy year.
Strategizing.
Only few things have been achieved because either a government wants re-election or after 7 years, the government is logging out, trying to prepare ground for the successor. And, it's always, so that 3 years is enough to show if, that 3 year might not, that 3 year period rather, might not address all the challenges 100%. But Nigerians must know that you are working.
Between now and the 3 years, let's see where we are. If, God willing, the dollar can come down to a level almost pari passu with the naira and the naira to the dollar either way.
I'd rather take it like this. Instead of saying the dollar should come down, how about the naira gaining more power? Gaining more spending power, the value to increase.
Absolutely.
And we being self-sufficient in many spheres and sectors. Doing less of importation and doing more
of exportation.
The agricultural sector, the education, the health, and something happened. We heard that a release was published by Ajuri Ngelale, the special advisor on media publicity, that the UN meeting coming up, it has been said that any functionary that doesn't have
a business at the UN
direct function there.
Direct function,
not just you, just me and Atachi.
So I want to go with Mr.
President. It does quite.
That's the beginning. That's what we're talking about.
Enough of the waste.
Cost of governance.
Yeah, if you don't have any direct thing to do there. No reason to just be behind your principal and then holding bags and then carrying files and 3 or 4 persons just doing the same thing and they are just there, and I think that's an applause to them.
That's an applause. And in the course of the week, hopefully, we'll keep looking at all these things and let's see how this can really, really better Nigerians. And we've heard that some states are beginning to get their palliative distribution will begin to happen. We'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll see what it looks like with our dear state here in Osun State. But let's begin to check some of these headlines making the rounds from the dailies that we have with us for this beautiful Tuesday morning, 29th day in the month of August 2023. I'll kick off with from the pages of the Punch newspaper, and the big bold headline there, as just we had rightly discussed here, it says FEC unfolds 3-year economic revival plan. Tinubu warns ministers, and you have the writer there. It says, ministers to achieve first phase of Tinubu's 8-point agenda within 3 years. Tinubu inherited bad economy. Youth unemployment unacceptable. That's credited to a minister speaking there as well. Then you have the picture of the members of the FEC meeting yesterday with Mr. President leading the charge there alongside his ministers. We wish them the very best. Coming further down on the bottom strip of the same daily here, Abiodun diverted Ogun local government's allocation, 10.8 billion naira bailout. Council boss alleges 10.8 billion. Wow. Then the red strip there says tenants bites off neighbor's ear over electricity bill. And you beat that.
That's bizarre.
Well, we should just be careful.
You wonder what kind of argument
that will have electricity bill
to discuss. You know,
electricity
really,
bill.
If you live in a community where you have so many persons in the compound,
face me, I slap you.
You know the way they say in the yard. so many persons are there. Sometimes it's not face me and face you. It might be maybe some apartment in the same compound. Possibly they are using one prepaid meter, or they are on estimated billing, and then when the bill comes, an apartment is paying, the other apartment is not paying, and it's been like that. Sometimes this cough will happen, and possibly that's what has led to chopping off of somebody's ear now. And you know, this is not the day of Jesus and Peter now,
and even Tyson and Holyfield.
Yeah.
All right, other stories still making the rounds from Punch newspaper for today. NLC FMBN clash over 238 billion naira national housing fund. On the top strip of this same daily, Cameroon dam flood to hit state in 7 days. That's credited to the federal government. Please get ready. Let's those of us where we live on the lowland areas, Nasarawa, Taraba, Bayelsa, Kogi, Edo, this state, this dam is coming, is going to be opened in 7 days' time, as credited to the Punch newspaper, stated by the federal government. Let's do the needful. And I heard yesterday that it's the federal government, NEMA, all of them, they're trying to work assiduously to at least the impact of the flood shouldn't affect too much. So please, let's move away where we can all stay and stay safe. Other stories, NBS kicks as ex-statistician general faults new employment data. NBS, that's the National Bureau of Statistics, kicks as ex-statistician general faults new employment data. That is going to be the conversation on the show this morning, but let's just move on. Extractive firm underpaid $10 billion in taxes and royalties. Nati speaking there. All right. The much I have with me from the pages of the Punch for today.
All right. Excuse me. And on the front page of The Nation for today, The Nation newspaper, it reads, boldly written there, Tinubu target to economic revival, 50 million jobs in 3 years. Okay. Tinubu target to economic revival, 50 million jobs in 3 years. You know, we want to know the parameters, you know, the structure, the policy, in which sectors are these things going to be done. Just like I said earlier, the first year, how many millions? Second year, you know, what kind of jobs? Because at the last administration today, you remember there was this, was it Public Works from the Ministry of Labor, you know, spearheaded by Festus Keyamute, that created so many controversies, especially when it was called to question by the National Assembly then, that got him into trouble because it was, you know, gallivanting in a kind of way. Just, was it 6 months or 3 months? And then you could hardly see, where did this work happen? How much were they paid? Was that sustainable? The, you know, the end power, initiative there, and the NSIPs, all these cash transfers, you know, meant to empower the people, you know, and so people want to know how these will be done. I remember the last administration saying, through the president then, President Muhammadu Buhari, former President Muhammadu Buhari, saying they are going to lift 100 persons out of poverty.
100,000.
100.
100.
Yeah, out of poverty. And at the end of the day, you know, they landed 133 million persons. It's a multi-dimensional poverty. So we hope this is we are not pessimistic. Yeah. We're optimistic of a greater Nigeria.
Absolutely.
But then let's see how this works. Enough of just turning out figures
without seeing the impact. Yeah.
That's it. Tinubu targets economic revival, 50 million jobs in 3 years. And with a rider, perform or be fired. Presidency wants ministers. I think it's more like it. Let's see that they are really doing. And many persons who are close to the president saying, I remember an interview granted by former Lagos State Governor Raji Fashola saying, you know, in a manner of using sports, saying what kind of a coach, in a kind of way, you know, if you are going to describe who you say President Bola Tinubu is he the kind of a person who will just give the instructions and then sit at the sidelines and then be watching the players play, you know, because he believes he has done the job, go and do your work? Or the kind of coach like Sir Alex Ferguson or Jose Mourinho or Pep Guardiola who will be at the sidelines shouting and screaming, dishing out. And he said, you know, former President Buhari was more of the latter, the former rather. But President Tinubu is the one that will give you the job and stay on your, you know, neck, if I may use that word. It costs you as early as any time of the day. We believe if this is really true, as said by former Governor Raji Fashola, I think is a good thing.
Absolutely.
You know, to let them know that I'm watching. It's not the one that you give a minister or any part of the cabinet, go and do something, and then you just sleep off without really calling them to question.
Femi, look at from that page of the Nation that you're reading out. Look at that, the quote from Mr. President under the picture. Look at what it said there. It said, "You and I know that the expectation is high, and it's a tough time right now. We must work hard, commit ourselves, and create a buoyant economy that will serve every Nigerian."
Say no more. That's what we want. That's it. Let them know. And we are watching as well. And at the bottom strip there, you can see the picture of the, you know, the FEC meeting that was had, the picture of the Vice President Shetima there, George Akume there, that's the SGF, the President himself, and other persons in that room. We wish them all the best. And so, the bottom strip in red, palliatives warehouse looted in Bayelsa. Ocean secures stores. Okay. When I saw that news yesterday, it's just, this is Bayelsa. I think yesterday or 2 days ago, it was Benue. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And this Bayelsa. So it's spreading. It shows one thing. People are hungry.
And angry.
And angry at the same time. So any information that there is there is a food or food items packed somewhere, you just see desperate persons just going there. We are not justifying this. It's bad. It should not be done. But please do the needful. I think in Benue, I stand to be corrected now, the explanation of that state government was the fact that it was food that was shared during
COVID.
In 2022.
No, it was Bayelsa. It was Bayelsa.
The flood relief situation. Okay, Bayelsa now.
Bayelsa.
Yeah, the flood relief intervention that happened last year as the remainder, the remnant that are not fit for consumption that the people have gone to loot. The question is, why did that food remain? Why? How? And, you mean you kept some food items somewhere?
That large, that quantity.
Even if it's a little, why not give, if you plan to give them 2 or 3, and after you have given the 2 or 3 portions, the food is still remaining, go ahead and still share it. So what's it there for? You are now saying, by the way, I don't personally believe that because it's cost to question. You mean you kept food there
and
to achieve what?
What? Since 2020.
And when people have gone, some desperate persons have gone there to loot, you are now saying it's bad food that is there. How did the food, Nigerians, by the way.
God.
Ocean secure stores, that's good. please do that. But then don't keep it at the stores. The food are not meant for the stores. Do the needful. We understand Ocean has put up a committee to see to that. Please do that immediately and do it conscientiously as well. Do it in a way that even your conscience will be clean that you have done a very good job. And moving on, APC tackles opposition PDP over Tinubu's economy policies. Okay. Cameroon's Lagdo Dam opening sparks fear in 13 flood-prone states. You've spoken about that earlier. Federal government urges relocation from threatened areas. Okay. You know, it's a situation that you want the government to do beyond just urging them to leave. No, do that they leave. Provide the logistics. Work with the state government that are involved in all of this, because they are first Nigerians, you know, before they are now coming from different states across the federation. 13 states. We can't afford that. And in as much we still have the time right now to do the needful, to avoid this kind of situation, please let's do that on time. And at the top strip there, Citigroup predicts rise in foreign investment. Okay. Obaseki fires Shaibu's media aids as rift widens. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh my goodness. A service was had at that stage for 32 years of Edo State's creation on Sunday. I think there was a conference or something yesterday on Monday as well. And then the deputy governor was saying, I don't have to reach with my boss. If there's any issue, we have where we have to thrash shit out in the private, and then this is not meant for the media. And now it's been reported that Obaseki fires Shaibu's media aides as rift widens. I just hope the media aides will not be the fall guys of these issues, because somebody must just take the blame. And when two gladiators fight, you know what happens. All right. Why we dropped Sanwo-Olu's nominees by Speaker? I think there is something brewing between the Lagos State governor and the Lagos State House of Assembly, because the Mudashiru Obasa, the Speaker, has been talking tough, letting them know that nobody from anywhere can tell them to do what they will not do. They are being elected. This was what say we are being elected by our people, so we carry their mandate and we must do the work. And the persons that have been rejected remains rejected. And you know, some names have come up. Akin Abayomi,
Commissioner for Health.
And people are wondering, this man did fantastically well, especially during COVID.
Absolutely.
You know, there are political inclinations and dimensions that was the reason why Akin Abayomi. In fact, people that are not from Lagos State are speaking up for Akin Abayomi, that why wouldn't you want to work for this kind of person? Is it because he doesn't have that political influence? What does it bring in politically? And some will say it doesn't have to be by that. This is a man that was seen to be working, and so he deserves to be, you know, to be brought back, possibly in that capacity or in another capacity. But Mudashiru Obasa is saying they are on top of the matter. So we wish Lagos the best. And federal government stops frivolous official trips in cost-saving measure. That's it on the Nation for this morning.
And quickly, I'll check out the other stories we have from the pages of the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper is next. Unwieldy appointment of SSAs, SAs, PAs depletes lean resources in poor states. If the states know that they can't really get these people, then it's not compulsory. You have so many of them.
But you know, Tunde, you and I know boys must be settled. in a manner of speaking, he's just meant to just settle guys that have worked most times. That's the truth. That's a convention. It's not really a law thing, but it's a convention. You remember when the former governor of Rivers State and the current FCT minister appointed essays in their thousands.
Oh my God.
Essays on poly units.
That's the same thing. We look at the front page of the Guardian. It shows that Mrs. R, wife of SA on divorcee in Bauchi, Mrs. X, SA on happiness in Imo. Wife of the chief, I don't know.
Wife of the chief security, or what's this now?
I don't know.
You know, just some bizarre kind of portfolios and essay to the essay on essay matters.
I think there was a time former governor of Ekiti State had something about food infrastructure.
Yeah.
Look.
Stomach infrastructure.
Nigerians, government at all levels, you guys. Okay. Now let's look at the bottom strip a little bit. Tinubu gives ministers marching order to revive economy, as common to all the papers for today. Not yet Uhuru for creative industry financing. Please make it work.
Yeah.
It's necessary. On the top strip of the same daily, the Guardian newspaper, Lagos Assembly insists on rejection of 17 commissioner nominees. Lagos Assembly insists on rejection of 17 commissioner nominees. OAU bans hugging, sitting on laps, skimpy dresses, tattoos, others on campus.
Right.
Thank God somebody like Bemileke had actually graduated. I wonder what it will look like if he is there at this moment, right? Right, OAU, no hugging, no sitting on laps, no skimpy dresses, no tattoos, and amongst other things on campus.
Yeah.
OAU wish you the best.
I think they are just in a way kind of trying to contribute to their quota to sanity.
Sanity.
Yeah, value, character. You know, as they say, you know, when you're graduating or your convocation day, the officer, now the deans or the person that will pronounce you as a graduate will say, you have been found worthy in character and learning.
Yeah.
That's it. Character first and then learning. Yeah. And I think this is fast being eroded on different grounds of being, you know what they say, woke. Woke behavior, and it's about leave us with our lifestyles. It doesn't matter. We have come here to learn, and you know, if OAU is standing for this, I know so many persons will still raise eyebrow.
But it's
like this is 2023, where you behaving like you are in the archaic time. But as for one, I think it must just start somewhere.
It must just start.
Yeah.
It must just start. I think this is a good one. This is a good one. I sincerely support this as well. Because these days, when you see some of our ladies, our daughters, with the dress,
even the men,
even with different kind of, you see tattoos
funny
on their body, you see the earrings.
And some of these things are just merely distractions. Distractions from the main reason why they are there at the university. So for OAU, for me, I think is the right way to go. But then they must still know there is
freedom, liberty,
that right to do some certain things, so that it doesn't look like they are just gagged or in a regimented area.
It's a period where at least it's a tertiary institution, but the fact remains that there must be decency. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. And lastly, from the pages of the Guardian newspaper, registrars indicted over unclaimed dividends as figure rises by 94% in 24 years. That's a business story from the Guardian newspaper. All right,
and I have the Daily Trust here, the Daily Trust newspaper. President Tinubu unveils 8-point agenda. President Tinubu unveils 8-point agenda. Warns ministers against underperformance. We inherited very bad economy. Edun, that's the Minister for Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy. Find short-term solutions to fear subsidy removal. Forest crisis expert tells federal government. You know, and moving on. Tribunal, Kano APC declares fasting prayers 48 hours after NMPPs. Okay, if you need the detail, please grab a copy of the Daily Trust for this morning. Residents invade Bayelsa warehouse, loot spoiled, in parentheses there, spoiled 2022 palliatives. And Tinubu bars officials without specific roles from attending the UNG, that's United Nations General Assembly, and that's the right call. You can't just be there flying and on my expense, on your expense, on Nigerians, you know, footing the bill just to go there and then use your phone to record your principal. No, you can get the video somewhere else. Okay, and at the top strip there, Cameroon notified us 7 days after opening Lagdo Dam. Dam is open.
Looking at what Daily Trust
that's what the Daily Trust is reporting, federal government, saying they only notify them after it has been opened 7 days. Okay, now the question is, are they talking about last year or this year? Because it happened last year. You need the detail. Please grab a copy of the Daily Trust. And 250 billion naira gas expansion fund dormant for 4 years. Are we serious?
Why?
250 billion gas expansion fund dormant for 4 years, meaning it wasn't assessed. Was there information on it? Who are the ones in charge? 250 billion naira. Okay, and I hope it's not just dormant; it's still there and safe.
That's the cocoa. That's what we say.
Okay, PSA retires 4 DIGs for not leaving after Egbetokun's appointment. PSA retires 4 DIGs for not leaving after Egbetokun's appointment. Okay, and I think that's a convention in the security architecture, either in the military. The moment you have your colleague or your junior peradventure being promoted to the highest rank, those of you that are his peers or the ones that that were his senior at a point before he's elevated, automatically you have to be retired. And I think they have not done the needful. And now the Police Service Commission is saying, guys, please proceed on compulsory retirement. And some persons have been elevated as well, waiting confirmation. And I think they have done well for themselves to rise to the level of being a DIG. Kudos.
You know what it takes?
All the best with the rest of your lives. That's it on Daily Trust for this morning.
Let me check out what I have from the pages of This Day newspaper. This Day newspaper, the big bold caption, just as every other daily has reported for today. At meeting, fake meeting, Tinubu charges ministers to revive nation's ailing economy. Says unemployment unacceptably high. Bars uninvited government officials from attending UNGA in US. And the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy saying we inherited bad economy. Wow. And the picture of some set of people there on a strategic meeting on project financing with the Lagos State Governor there. Moving above the major headline here, Nigeria gradually grinding to halt under Tinubu, PDP alleges. And Obaseki, Shuaibu's rift gets messier as governor disbands deputies media crew. Wow, why? Following on to federal government, it's not for market forces, IMF, World Bank to fix forex rate. What's this? Okay. And the big bold caption on the top strip, we are in big mess. Shetima declares on economy. The writer there says challenges Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy, tax reform. Those are some of the stories I've got for you from the pages of This Day newspaper as well.
Before we call it quit on this segment, the rift between Shaibu and the Deputy Governor of Edo State and his principal, that Governor Obaseki, this one is saying something different. The other party will come and say, oh, there's no problem, all is well, is the media age or is this, some persons are getting the sticks. The thing is, they are speaking in different tones and different capacities and in different places. Why can't Shaibu and Obaseki just have a meeting, man to man, one-on-one? What is the issue with you? Because we have not been told that there has been a meeting, especially recently, between the two. Sit down, that's the governor, have a seat, the deputy governor, have a seat. What exactly is the issue?
Now, what are the elders?
Some things have been said about me that you said. Yes. Did you say that? Do you mean them? And then, so why speak in different forum and then just speaking into the air, and then the people of Edo State are just wondering what's going on? Speaking about elders.
The elders, that's what I expect. The party leaders, the elders, they are there. What have they? I'm not sure, I stand to be corrected. I'm not really seeing any of the party elders, party leaders saying, we will intervene in the rift between governor and deputy governor. We'll see to it. All will be well. We've just been seeing what the governor has been saying this. The deputy governor stormed out of a conference that they had. But we just, look, one thing that amuses me is this life seemed to be funny. Yeah. Because at a point in time, we were very close. Yeah. We were against the opposition. We kept talking. But now, you begin to hear it.
Politics is always an interesting thing.
Honestly,
very interesting.
It's really, really made quite a whole lot, because in my younger years in the university, then in Benin, my mom's elder sister, the husband is a staunch politician, I mean, so rests well now. And that's where all the big men in Edo State, then the Kimis, and all of them will come. They will have a meeting in his house, and they will do till about 2-3 a.m. And once they get to where they're going the following morning, earlier in the morning, you just see my uncle come home much later, furious, and like, you will now be ranting that, you know, everything we agreed on here, when we get there, they say no, they're not agree again.
That's politics. And in the heart of this situation between the governor of Edo State and his deputy is power. Definitely.
Deputy governor is saying he wants to be governor.
He wants to have, he has an ambition to be governor. And possibly the governor is saying, do it the right way. We don't know yet.
He has his
possibly the governor having his own, you know. But then let him just pay us. We have a lot to deal with. That Shaibu and Obaseki kind of issue. They'll be fine. They're already made. Yeah. So please spare the rest of us. Let's concentrate on what is happening in Nigeria.
Absolutely. All right. The conversation is next on the show this morning, and we will be delving into the fact of what the National Bureau of Statistics have stated concerning the rate of unemployment. That figure is alarming. Out of school children in Nigeria is alarming. And hey, what does this portend for us as a country? We'll be back very shortly. We will be joined by somebody via Zoom, and let's see how well they can help us out and prefer a solution to this very, very terrible scenario that we are experiencing in Nigeria. Stay with us. It's still Morning Spring from Western Spring Television.
Kiriji War, also known as Ekiti-Parapa War, was waged among Yoruba main ethnic groups which emerged from the ruins of the falling Oyo Empire that were desperate to replace the awesome powers hitherto wielded by the Alaafin of Oyo. The Kiriji War is defined as a conflict of confederacy and unitary political system championed by Yorubas of different socioeconomic and political interests. The Ibadan military aristocrats felt they deserved a dominant position for saving Yoruba land from being totally submerged by the Fulanis by their victory in Oshobo War of 1840 and Ijaye War of 1862. Kiriji War, that took its name from the booming motor sounds of European arms festered for so long because the Industrial Revolution in Europe provoked high standards of slaves. The 16-year Civil War also caused the emergence of new powerful kingdoms like Ibadan and the rise of powerful personalities like Oluyole, Ogunmola, Kuromi, Latosha, Shodeke, Fabumi, and Ogedengbe. One of the fallouts of Kiriji War was the birth of creative political and leadership structure in Yoruba land that was a blend of federalism and autocratic monarchical system. Western Spring Television identifies Kiriji War as a watershed event. Gbadamosi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held lofty the torch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker. The nickname Kwenkele was a natively corrupted version of peculiar mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Western Spring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history. Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness in participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history. This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okeogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies the Berlin Conference as a major event in history. James Ajibolaige was a lawyer who obtained his first degree in classics from Nigeria's premier University of Ibadan. Born September 13, 1930, the orator and the polyglot spoke impeccable English, French, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba languages. His fine diction placed him among classical orators and public speakers like Cicero, the Roman orator. This attribute earned him the prefix Cicero of Esauke. He authored Kaduna Boy, an autobiography, Detainee's Diary, Constitution, and the People, among 6 other books. Bolaige was a colorful politician, elected governor of Oyo State in 1979 and appointed a federal minister in 1999. He was a pioneer founder of Afenifere, the Yoruba social, cultural, and political group. He invested his political sagacity to propel the group to the height of political leadership and decision-making in the southwest of Nigeria. Bolaige was assassinated on the 23rd December 2001. His murderers are yet to be apprehended till today. Western Spring Television identifies Bolaige as a watershed character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the Earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Western Spring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history.
Welcome and thank you for staying with us. At this point in time, as stated by the National Bureau of Statistics, it has stated the fact that 4.1% of are unemployed. 4.1% of people are unemployed in Nigeria at this moment in time. That's huge. 4.1. And looking at this statistics and looking at what the NBS has stated, that if you can work for 1 hour a day, you are unemployed. And if there's this here that I actually saw, it says, looking at the old methodology, saying that if you can work for 20 hours, we'll really break it down in the course of the show today. We want to look at that statistics. Is NBS right as to what the figures, the percentage they have stated at this moment in time?
Especially the methodology. Because saying that only what it means, the implication is only 4.1% of Nigerians are unemployed. 4.1%. And so many persons are thinking, is that correct? What's the parameter? So which kind of persons, which cadre of persons, what kind of jobs are you saying, or you are stating that once somebody does this job for this hours, and that means the person is employed. So many persons have frowned at the methodology of the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. How did they come by? Meaning only 4.1% of Nigerians are not employed in a country that just less than a year ago was termed to be, being 133 million of them are multidimensionally poor. And you know what unemployment has to do with poverty. So arriving at this time to say 4.1%, and these are the things that we'll be interrogating this morning. And we are very happy that because our guest is here to do justice to that.
Joining us via Zoom this morning, all the way from Canada, we will be talking with a policy analyst, Barrister OLUBUNMI AYANTUNJI, it is morning here, but but then I don't know. I can't say good night or good evening or thereabout. But be that as it may, we'd like to say thank you for joining us, Barrister.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I hope you can hear me very clearly.
Absolutely.
It's morning, yes. Early morning.
Exactly. All right. You've seen what the methodology looks like for the rate of unemployed Nigerians at this point, and looking at that number, 4.1%. From your own view, even though you're probably not here, but I know you follow happenings in Nigeria a great deal. What do you make of that number? 4.1% are unemployed in Nigeria. What do you make of that?
First of all, right, I want to appreciate you for having me here, right? My policy career has actually spanned working in the Nigerian Senate, working with agencies of government like the NDS over time. So to an extent, I think I know how most of these figures are really propounded. First of all, we should understand that unemployment is now beyond a social economic indicator in Nigeria. And unemployment is now a political indicator. A political indicator in the sense that it now determines what oppositions and ruling parties now discuss, you know, how many jobs have you provided? Why do you think Nigerians should vote for you? Now you are in power and unemployment. So it's not a political indicator. Now the problem with unemployment being a political indicator is that the agencies or the regulators or the parastatals in charge of giving us figures as regards unemployment would definitely want to pander to the whims and caprices of the persons that employ them. I don't know if you're getting it.
Yes, go ahead.
Now, the NBS, right, is an agency of the federal government.
Yes.
There are chances that, you know, there's this saying where they say, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. He who feeds the viper dictates the poison. But the problem with that is, if NBS is playing to the gallery or playing to curry favor from the federal government, let me put that in quote and not mention positions, right? They would lose credibility as regards that. I'll come into that later. Now, the last time MBS released a figure was in 2001. Yeah, I think 2001. But then, they were rating it over 100% then. Suddenly, we heard that about a month ago that they're changing the metrics for measuring unemployment in Nigeria. Their reasons for that was that, you know, countries of the world using these metrics, you know, even countries that we look up to as first world countries are using these metrics. Good. However, what has justified using these metrics in Nigeria? And that's what I don't get personally. Because changing these metrics suddenly would automatically confuse policymakers. You know, NBS said in their communique, they said they are basing the survey on 35,520 homes. That's the survey they are basing. That's the number they are basing the survey on. Yes. However, they didn't disclose whether this survey or these numbers or this plotted demography have been in their city for a long time. So it's vague, very vague, you know. First of all, the metric, the former metric says the age that they based that on was, I think, 15 to 64 or 60, and now it's 16 or 15 till infinity. Before now, they say if you're working at least 40 hours a week, you're considered to be employed. Now it's saying if you're working 1 hour. How reasonable is that? You know, coming to Nigeria where obviously there's no middle class anymore, you know, fintechs are closing down. In fact, the Nigerian Labour Congress has refuted these figures. So aside the fact that these figures are vague, the metric is confusing. From 32% to 4.1%. You are not even delineating the demography you have used to create this facade. And I keep saying, and I've said it in the radio station and I featured yesterday, that this is just a case of pandering to some whims and caprices, because obviously, just like in Canada, yeah, housing is now a very, very big political indicator. How have you been able to provide housing for the people? So you tend to see agencies of government falsifying figures. The one that cannot falsify figures will definitely bring some very foreign metric to measure how they can get the numbers up, so that their bosses or the persons that employed them to head agencies will be like, oh, you're doing very well. But this is more like painting a dilapidated house without reinforcing it. It will definitely fall. You can't put nothing, or you can't put something on nothing. It will crumble. Right. It will definitely crumble. So I'll let you ask your next question. But basically for me, this is not acceptable, because I would think that every natural or every sane human will understand the principles of cause and effect. And aside that, if you want to release figures like this, you consult agencies of government, you consult stakeholders like the Nigerian Labour Organization, and you get very comprehensive figures. But when you change mechanisms, you change metrics suddenly, and you come up with 4.1%, you know, and then the supporters of NBS would say, oh, we have it bad in other countries of the world. Other countries of the world are having it too. But Nigeria is different. Do other countries of the world have oil in excess as we have had it? Other countries of the world, do they spend money the way we spend it? Other countries of the world, are their Senate or the National Assembly approving billions to buy cars? So comparing this to what we have, you know, it doesn't follow. It's not sequitur, as they call it in law. It doesn't follow at all. So for me, first of all, I do not understand why that metric would have to be changed to probably pander to some interests, probably to get the head of agencies in the good books of his employers, which I believe that is so. Or definitely to curry some favor. And again, let me add this before now you ask your questions, right? They are saying that underemployment is now 12.2% compared to the 13% in the fourth quarter. Now, you say underemployment when the metric you are using is that anybody that can work 1 hour in a week is employed.
All right. All right. Thank you, Barrister. We go on a short break. Please stay with us, Barrister, and very shortly we will be back. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. We will be right back. Please stay with us.
Welcome back, and thank you for always being here with us. It's still Morning Spring right here, and we have been speaking with Barrister OLUBUNMI AYANTUNJI from Canada via Zoom, because we're looking at the rate of unemployment in Nigeria. That's statistics. It had always been up, down. It's been the methodology the MBS has been using. Nigerians are wondering, how do they arrive at this point, giving us this statistics? But be that as it may, let's get Barrister OLUBUNMI AYANTUNJI back online with us via Zoom all the way from Canada. And Femi, you ready?
All right. Yeah. Are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. Very well.
Yes. All right. You know, the agency of the government, especially a very important one like the MBS, is one that we want to hold through to their words, definitely because of what they represent about the reality of what is on ground, especially in Nigeria here. And so this is not to cast aspersion on that agency, but just to interrogate what they have said. You know, in April 2023, earlier this year, they announced that they will be changing the way they calculate the unemployment rate.
Yeah.
And in their words, they said the new approach is to align with the International Labour Organization's guidelines and was expected to reveal a sharp drop in the country's job data. So, under the old methodology, the MBS pegged Nigeria's unemployment rate at 33.3% as at Q4 in 2020, but the revised methodology put it at 4.1% in Q1 in 2023. And you know, there have been reactions. Now, in the old methodology, the Bureau categorized unemployed as anyone of working age who worked below 20 hours or did not work but searched and was available in the reference week, and the week MBS is carrying out the survey. Now, under the new Bureau's methodology, if you have not worked in the past 7 days or have been looking for work in the past 4 weeks and are ready to start work, you are considered unemployed. This means that some people who are previously classified as unemployed are now categorized as employed. So this sounds a bit confusing. You know, if you have not worked in the past 7 days, or you have been looking for work in the past 4 weeks, and you are ready to start work, then you are unemployed. Make us understand. Make sense of this. Why exactly? You know, because they are saying this, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics are saying the methodology is to align with the ILO's guidelines. And here we are.
I think here we are confusing apples and oranges, literally. Also, right, I believe that we're in Nigeria, we're all Nigerians, right? When an agency of government wants to do something, especially now as policymakers in my career as a policy person, right, I understand that when agencies like the MBS or agencies of government in Africa, now not just Nigeria, want to do something that they know will definitely get a pushback from citizens or policymakers or the educated circle, they will definitely find a convention, you know, a regulation. It's just like the Bible, right? There's no verse in the Bible that will not support anything you want to do. If you want to stay, if you want to drink, if you want to womanize, there will definitely be something. There will definitely be something you want to rely on. So it's more of calling a dog path to hang it, something like that. So, but then coming back to Nigeria, my problem again is how comprehensive is the metrics that is used to get to this number. If you would agree with me, we are in 2023, right?
Yes, please.
We have more young persons working remotely now. We have more young persons doing fintech. They work in the comfort of their room. Now, once they have their laptop, they're working. Are they amongst the demography used to get this? Entrepreneurs, the weather, you know, doting. Are those ones even, did they put them into all of this demography? You know, when you give big surveys and when people say Nigerians trust international organizations to give accurate surveys that are local, agencies that are empowered to do that. You don't blame them, because this is it. What is the justification? What is the local or domestic justification for changing the metrics into this? You know, you say somebody that is working. It's funny that you say, what is the minimum wage in Nigeria today? And you say anyone working 1 hour in a week, in 1 week, one of the countries of the world, for example, in Canada, for students before now, about 2 years ago, it's students cannot work for more than 20 hours a week. Now, because of the economic situation, then they increased it to 40 hours. In the case of Nigeria, we are reducing it to 1 hour. When the countries we are copying are already saying they are increasing theirs, you know, that's the metric that by which they are judging. We are decreasing ours. And I think all these things, all these metrics, right, that are just being introduced, is just to satisfy a particular political indicator. You know, is to satisfy the fact that the numbers are against us. The numbers are obviously against the government. There's no government that will see the bogus numbers that will be happy, because these are the metrics by which the people will judge you.
Mr. Ayantунjì,
I think the numbers are against you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, if I may quickly cut in, one will say the same agency of the government, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, that has been seen to be credible for years, are still the one who have turned out these figures. So what has changed? Meaning, it's the same agency. So why are we like questioning the modus operandi now?
I don't think. I think I would differ from what you said. With due apology to anybody that I have in the MBS, I don't think Nigeria has said the MBS has been accurate over time. In fact, the problem with the MBS that I know of has always been problems of politics. You know, getting infiltrated with politics from the federal, and I think to an extent that it was all these gimmicks that had the last head of the agency to step aside. You know, his tenure was over, and there were so many things. You know, so the problem is there's some agencies that should be totally insulated from the aprons of the executive. You know, because you need them to think straight independently, because their verdict sometimes, just like the judiciary, might be against you. So they need a force to head the agency, someone that is not tied to the aprons of some political overlords that will just bring some random metric one day. The ILO metric just starts functioning. It's been for years. Why are you bringing it now? So you begin to question these things, and the most convenient thing, rational thing is, and the truth is, we should use our tongue to counter things like the Yoruba will say. You cannot deceive all the people all the time. It is wrong. They are saying unemployment has fallen to 4.1. Your brother, your cousin that is jobless, do they have jobs now? Do Nigerians have food on their table? The middle class that has been evaporated over the years, are they back? You know, so if these things, see, there's the principles of cause and effect now. If these things are working, we should feel it. They are not air.
Absolutely.
If unemployment has really gone, and now we have good figures like this, and it has improved, why are we not feeling it? Why are people complaining? Why is the economic situation of the country not improving? Why is it not affecting the economy? If the people are employed, more money will enter into the economy. Why are we still having underpangs? It doesn't follow. Like I said, it's not sequitur. And I think this gimmicks needs to be fixed. We can't continue like this. It's not sustainable.
Barrister, help us out once again. Looking at Nigeria, the country in which we are, where we don't have a database of who stays here. We don't have a database compared to where you are, whereby the government knows who stays at number, so they have everything intact. Now, looking at the rates, the rate at which it has been stated, the number that has been put out at this point in time, do you think this is real, or it's just one of those ways? I know you spoke a little bit about it earlier, but it's just a means to just pacify Nigeria to say, government is beginning to work. That's why probably the rate of unemployment is coming down.
The government has not even clocked the 100 days. Is it magic? How would unemployment just fall to 4.1 in how many, you know? It's not magic. It doesn't work like that. Now, FBS said they evaluated all the surveys based on 35,520 households. From which states? From which local governments? In fact, some states, the local government systems are not working. So, for me, the survey is vague. You know, and when you say 35,520 households, how have you delineated these households? What are the metrics you use to spot these households? Did you come to my hometown in Ifetumudu? Did you go to Ilesha? Did you inform the NBSF headquarters in Osun? Did you go to Ekiti? Like, I would think that these things should be broken down state by state, because in Nigeria, the rate of unemployment in Kano or Kaduna or Niger would definitely differ from that in Jos or Osun or Ekiti or on those things because of, you know, cultural and many other things, right? And again, if we definitely have a good database in Nigeria, which is quite needed, it would have to start from having as simple as a functioning local government system, which some state governors have crippled totally. You know, and that's a conversation for another day. But then 35,520 households. Since when have you had these households in your database? The last time you issued a percent was 2 years ago. Were you using the same survey, or were you using the same metric, like the same 35,520? Are you saying it's the same figure that Nigerians have now in 2023? Have you updated your database recently? You know, did you connect with the young persons of Nigeria that are now working in AI, remote work, fintechs, doing good works abroad? You know, did you connect with them? Did you consult NLC? The metrics are different that they didn't do. You know, it's just more of we need something that is politically correct to make the people happy, because currently the situation is volatile in the country. Fuel price, economy is not doing fine. We need something to make people happy. But guess what? Nigerians are more sensitive and sensible now. If you think you're going to be judging Nigerians by 10 years ago, 7, you're wrong. People are refusing these figures. You need to see how young person are disputing it online with facts and figures. And I support that. I really do. And the people that brought these numbers know. You don't get to confuse policymakers by probably rubbing paint on a dilapidated building. It will fall.
Okay. You know, talking about the old methodology, there is a document here that says recently, the new methodology, rather, let me start from there, says 35,520 households spread across 12 months. And the old methodology used 33,300, you know, at least some 1,000 or more lesser than the new methodology. But there are other things that we have been talking about. But away from that, what you have said, it's more like rubbing paint on dilapidated building, using your words now. So what is the implication of this to policymakers? You know, many are saying, if actually the MBS is saying this and it is generating ripples and controversies, many persons are not agreeing with it because they believe, how can there be that kind of decline from over 30% unemployment rate now to 4.1% with different methodology being used altogether? What does this mean to policymakers, to planners, to the budgeting and planning office in the way they churn out their policies and directions? Wouldn't this be like a confusion? Does it represent the true state of things in Nigeria? You have spoken passively about that, but what does it mean to policymakers going forward if actually you feel and you think this doesn't represent our reality as a nation?
In policy, there's something we call the Murphy's Law. The Murphy's Law means that, or let me just brief it, like when you want to bring out a policy or legislation or a regulation, you think back and say, what is the worst thing that can happen? So you prepare ahead for that, you know. But when you have a confusing brief, like lawyers will put it, for example now, you are consulting an architect to design a building. And the building the architect is designing will take like 4 plots of land to erect it. And you're saying, you're telling the architect, I have the 4 plots of land. And the architect designs a 4 plots design for you. And gets there and meets 2 plots. Who is fooling who? The Bible says when the foundation is weak, what shall the righteous do? If you say 4.1 are employed in Nigeria, The government that is dealing with unemployment and the results of unemployment, like insecurity and the rest, knows what they are dealing with. You understand? State governors understand the people on their neck. The governor of states understand that these figures do not tally with what I have in my heart. So you confuse the people that will bring policies that will alleviate this suffering. The policies they would give when you bring a figure like 10% is different from that of 4.1. It's like lying to your physician. You don't lie to your doctor. You don't lie to your lawyer. You end yourself. You end blaming yourself. And I think this is the case here. Policies would be structured wrongly. However, we should understand that it's the government that is lying to itself here, quote unquote. And then they would probably know that they have to show up some things where, we actually know these figures and all that. I don't want to go into that. But the truth remains that if the government will succeed, transparency is very key. So we know the kind of things we're dealing with. If you say unemployment has reduced, there are some things that should be paramount to us. There's something that should be transparent. Of course, unemployment reducing will definitely make, the economy will improve, security and all that. But then it's all showing up instead of reducing. And you're saying 4.1, who is deceiving who? So for me, it confuses policy makers. You don't couch policies that would attack the problems because you already feel it's being solved. And then like I would say, I wrote in a piece for a newspaper that what would the government say it has done to reduce these figures over time? Like this government, okay, now, before you get the first position in school, you tell your parents, I read, I revised. How many policies in the days of this government have they brought out to reduce these? You can't plant cassava and cultivate orange now.
Absolutely.
How many policies are they issued out in Nigeria to justify this figure? So for me, you don't just get figures from trees. What are the policies out there that has justified a drastic reduction in unemployment rate? For me, it doesn't follow. Again, as I was saying, it's confusing and it will definitely affect the policies that will be churned out subsequently.
Barrister, looking at the GDP of Nigeria at this point in time, it's growing very slowly. It's on a slow pedestal. And a couple of months ago, we heard that about 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor. The rate of unemployment at this point, is this not going pari passu? The lack of job in Nigeria today, because most Nigerians at this point will be waiting on government to create jobs. And looking at one of the headlines made by Mr. President during his FEC meeting yesterday was that in 3 years he will create about 50 million jobs. Do you see that as a reality? Is it feasible?
When politicians speak, they speak like politicians, and then we understand that the people, it's in the bogus words, it's in the bogus numbers, so we would excuse that. However, reality, to excuse this government, they met a messed up situation. You're just pardon my French, right? And again, right, I don't think this is the first time they say they've declared us as far as the poverty capital of the world. Different names and have been ascribed to the level of poverty in Nigeria, and all of them are right. However, when the government says it wants to provide so amount of jobs and reduce the poverty rate of the country, the next question a sane man would ask is how? Realistically, how do you want to do it? With the debt ratio, and again, you want to take the government serious, but then when you see the amount of money that is being approved for the National Assembly to buy cars, and these are just speculations, and what there. And when you see a government that says he wants to be prudent in spending resources, appointing over 40 ministers, You know, when you see a country that is poor and impoverished, borrowing money to spend or to feed, then there's a problem. There's a terrible disconnect. How does the government intend to now link these two, not being prudent and providing jobs? You know, and the problem now is, I think the federal government recently said they are sending bags of rice to state government to cushion poverty and all that, and that has been what handouts. And again, handout is not wrong. Don't quote me wrongly, because recently even Canada shared about $300 to people living below the poverty line. So handouts are, but then in Nigeria it's a constant thing. People handouts and go and relax. Nobody does anything again. I don't want to preempt the government, but as it stands now, there's no different approach. I'm not seeing any different approach to what we've had before now. The same 40+ ministers, the same money are approved by the National Assembly to buy cars, the same irresponsible spendings in government agencies, bogus unnecessary civil service. So these underlying problems have not been fixed. So how do you want to get results? So when the government is saying they want to do, this is not the first time we hear a governor, a president, or head of a national government saying they would provide so many jobs and all that, and we see nothing. The truth is, the Yorubas will say a Saturday that will be good, we'll see it from a Friday. A Sunday that will be good, we'll see it from Saturday. Now, if you want to do better, I would expect that there will be a drastic cost in cost of government. Let me give you an example. I would not want to mention names here. A particular head of the province traveled out of the country and stayed in a first-class hotel. And because of that, if you see the probe in the legislative house, because of that, and everything boils down to accountability and transparency. And I thank God that Nigerians are knowing better now to hold these people to account, because there's no the same process of the past 4 years is what we are repeating. And we can't keep repeating the same thing and expecting different results. So when they mention big poverty alleviation scheme like sharing rice to states, there's a problem.
All right.
Also that, okay, I'll let you speak.
Yeah, you know, talking about the sharing of rice that we talked about, I think it's called palliatives, you know, to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal.
But we shared palliatives last year too, remember?
If I may, please hold on. You know, it's meant to to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal, really, to states, trailers of rice and 5 billion naira, you know, handed over to each state to help with the pains being experienced by the people due to the...
I hope that is working in Oshu already.
Okay, yeah, we get to that. Yeah. We get to that. You know, so that people can at least feel that the government cares. Now, speaking about, you just spoken about a head of a province that was probed right there in Canada because he stayed in a 5-star hotel or first-class hotel. By the way, it was reported this morning that the government, you know, trying to start somewhere, the federal government, has told each person that will be going to the United Nations General Assembly that those that doesn't have direct function there should not make that list. And one will say, yeah, the situation has been bad, that's been an issue, but then there is always a place to start. You talked about having a good Sunday, having the prerequisite of a good Saturday, you know. And so one will say, why won't Nigerians give this particular administration the benefit of doubt? They are just like 3 months in office, exactly today, 29. Yeah, and so in as much they have started with the United Nations General Assembly, yeah, there are issues about the size of the cabinet, 48 or 49, and then they must just start somewhere, and that's on one side. And secondly, looking at the poverty rate in the nation, using the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative, it was revealed that 26.6% of Nigerians, over 170 million people, are destitute. You know, talking about out of that percentage of 170 million persons, that's what this one is reporting, that 26.6% are destitute, talking about different IDP camps in different states of the nation. And why persons that live between $1.25 per day and 2% per day, $2 per day are said to be poor. And then you have the states: Sokoto number 1, Katsina number 2, Adamawa, Gombe, Jigawa, Plateau, Ebonyi, and the states like that. What do we do? Or let me first ask, before we know what we do, these things that I've just read out, do you agree? Do you believe it reveals the true state of things in Nigeria? 2 questions in one, Mr. AYANTUNJI.
Yeah, I know them. I noted them down, sorry. And I differ. I differ because this is not the first time a president or the head of any sort of national government again would say ministers or appointees of government should reduce aids that they take for international trips. It's not the first time. Having worked in government, I understand that the problem is implementing that directive. It's not the president that would implement. The president can say, and we should understand political statements, the impact of politics. Is that thing that he said an executive order? No. Was it stated in the Gazette? No. Was it communicated to the SGF to communicate to ministries? No. So it's different. Follow-up or implementation of something like that is different from just uttering it. It's very good to utter words, but then how have ministers, there are ministers that have appointed Mr.
AYANTUNJI,
I remember you saying that earlier before this interview. So implementation is a problem.
Mr. AYANTUNJI
said the same thing.
Mr. AYANTUNJI, if I may quickly cut in, talking about making it official, I think that was communicated officially
during the FEC meeting.
During the FEC meeting, the ministers were there, and it was official. Communicated. The special advisor to the president of media publicity said that, and the ministers were there themselves. It was an official communication.
If it was an official communication, yeah, Jonathan's own was an official communication too. Hopefully a gazette will follow.
Okay.
And hopefully after 6 months or 7 months and 9 months, when the other matters of national importance has overridden that, they will still follow the same thing. And I would probably be back here by God's grace to remind you that it's not people. I'm not optimistic about it. I think it's a political statement. Number 2, right? I think we have forgotten as a country or as a people, we have forgotten, or as a government, we have forgotten the meaning of IDP camps. 4 or 5 years into settling into IDP campaigns, we have not settled our IDP camps. There's still an IDP camp in Abuja because of security. So our problems, and again, let me delve a little. Instead of, we had a Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs that was created. One of the reasons why the division was created in the time of President Buhari was that focusing on IDPs and resettlement and the rest of it. But still, what followed was a massive corruption expose of that mission. So our problems are multi-pronged. It's good to give the government a benefit of the doubt. But when we see the repetition of political actors over time, politicians being more than technocrats in a cabinet, when we see people that should actually be indicted for corrupt charges or be investigated for corrupt charges making it into the cabinet, former governors, persons that have mismanaged defense and security in their own states, becoming Minister of State Defense, you are forced not to be really optimistic, because you would feel like it's when somebody performs that you elevate them. When a person fails, quote unquote, you don't reward failure. And when we're in a system that rewards failure, one would not, like I said, you don't plant cassava and expect orange. I am seriously one thing I would probably love the government for is the inclusion of women and young persons in key ministries. But then the repetition of political actors that hitherto failed us in the cabinet is something to worry about. And key ministries, that is. These are persons that are used to carrying hundreds of aides when they're traveling. They've been governors. Yeah. How do you tell them not to use the same?
Quickly, because of the want of time, Barrister, let's look at this set of labor union leaders in the country at this moment in time. If you were the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, what would you be doing? What will you be saying concerning the spate of unemployment and the figures that have just been reeled out?
First of all, if I'm the, like I said in Channel City, if I'm the NLC chairman, the first thing I would go back to subnational governments and states that have blatantly said the last minimum wage they cannot pay. Do you believe that there are some states in Nigeria that are not even paying the minimum wage? The last minimum wage, they are not paying. They blatantly refuse to pay. So there are issues beyond what NBC is saying about unemployment rate. The issue of the people in the civil service, the one that have the job, are they getting what is due to them? There are some states that are still paying civil servants 16,000 naira, 8,000 naira,
right.
And the minimum wage is 30-something thousand, and they are blaming their resources. They've collected 5 billion now. They are owing pensioners. There are states in this country, I don't want to mention names, that civil servants are still collecting their salaries in staggered form. I have a close relation that is still earning salaries in 2,000, 4,000, 5,000. So as a labor leader, I'll deal with that first. You cater for the ones in the system, then you bring the others in. There are states that have the funds to take care of their pensioners, take care of the civil servants, and are not doing anything about it. And that's because there's no system of accountability that will hold them to account. So I will try to hold them to account and fix that specific mess.
Barrister OLUBUNMI AYANTUNJI, we want to thank you most sincerely for taking time out to be with us at this very period.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and please go back to bed and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. Have a very good day.
You too. That's how we wrap it up on the show this morning. But before we go, we just hope the rates at which unemployment is today is really, really disheartening.
Alarming.
That's very, very alarming.
Disturbing.
You know, that's why we begin to see those boys on the streets raising both hands up at all times. We
just read about what happened in Bayelsa.
Yeah.
Why people are so desperate. They have to go boggle a warehouse, and the government is saying it's a place that has, spoiled food.
I'm not even
that's a funny explanation.
Thank you.
There is no way to explain it out. Number one, if actually those, coming back to where we started, if actually those food items are bad, how did it get bad? Is it that there are no more persons on the street of Bayelsa that you could have handed these things over to so that they make use of it? And you are talking about, things that are purchased possibly by the government, by the federal government, brought by NEMA, brought by different support groups and persons who make donations. And then you have allowed it to spoil. And if actually they are just using that as as an excuse to just make themselves look like they didn't just get there, there is no way out of it. It's bad and it should be proved. But it's speaking to what the reality of what is on ground. And we hope this will not become a pattern. Because sadly, we have been here before, that once it starts in the state, if it's not quickly arrested, then it spreads. And then you remember what happened the last time? It spread into people's private homes. That people were looting and vandalizing shops, offices, homes that they believe something could be there. We don't have to get to that point. And the reality of what the MBS are saying, 4.1% unemployment rate, we hope it will be looked into. We are not casting aspersion for the integrity of the MBS, but please, let's do the needful. And if there's any agency of the government that should oversee the MBS or any of the MDAs, please do the needful, because the reality on ground obviously is not the same thing as what the MBS is saying, or they are saying rather.
And it's at this moment we'd like to thank everyone who has been a part of this program for today, Tuesday, 29th day, the month of August 2023. We'll be back tomorrow, God willing, for the midweek edition. As always, it promises to be bumper. And we'd like to say a big thank you to you all out there. You can go back to our YouTube channel for a recap of these programs and all our programs that we churn out from Western Spring Television, at Western Spring Television on all fronts, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on X, which is Twitter. Now, our YouTube channel, please, you can subscribe, like, and share as well. Tomorrow is another day. Thank you to our producer. Thank you to the director and to the entire camera team. Tunde IDOWU is my name at Irresistible TD on X. See you tomorrow.
In everything that you do today, make sure you do the best to be a patriotic Nigerian, and please help somebody. God bless Nigeria. Femi Ojo is my name. I'll see you tomorrow. We will see you tomorrow. God willing. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
World Cup tension is back.
Palace. Didn't quite get that right.